What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Social City Podcast. I'm your host, at Old School Omar. This is my beautiful, almost fly girl wife back in the day. That was your dream. You ever tell people about that?
Oh.
You wanted to be a fly girl?
Oh, I used to practice in front of the TV when In Living Color was on. I would tell my dad, I'm going to be a fly girl. He's like, you're going to go to college. I was like, I'm going to be a fly girl.
And now you get compliments about looking like J-Lo all the time, right?
I do. Why you got to bring that up?
Anyways, this is my beautiful
awkward.
wife, at Avi. You guys know the drill. On today's episode, we're going to be chatting about you are what you eat, from vegan to animal-based. We got special guests on the show. Coach Kiriah. Coach Kiriah is back at the gym. It's lovely to see her, and she's on the episode today. We're going to get into Obsession of the Week and finish out with some gratitude. But first, got to give a shout out to the sponsor. Y'all know what it is. Guerin Aesthetic and Family Dentistry, y'all. Dr. Amy Guerin is a solo dentist and owner of Guerin Aesthetic and Family Dentistry and has been serving the Las Vegas Valley for over 18 years. Guerin Aesthetic and Family Dentistry is a boutique office who prides themselves on putting the needs of their customers first. In a world of medical appointments that never seem to start on time, Dr. Guerin ensures that their offices run on time to respect their customers and their schedules. They work with insurance as well as cash-based patients. Dr. Guerin's staff are a great reflection of the culture they have created with their clientele. They offer a wide variety of dental and cosmetic services, including, here we go, cleanings, deep cleanings, laser therapy, fillings, clear aligner orthodontics, dental implants, oral surgery, crowns, whitening, cosmetic makeovers with veneers, TMJ treatment, Botox, and fillers. Their office is conveniently located in Summerlin at 1975 Village Center Road in the Hills Center Business Park. You can reach their offices at 702-522-0438. The Guerins. Good people, man.
Oh my gosh,
Love
yes.
the Guerins. What you got to say?
Well, so Amy is my dentist, number one. And I can attest for just the customer service. I don't think I've ever had a doctor's appointment where it's your appointment's at 9 and you're in there at 9. Normally you're in there at 9 and then you see the doctor at 9:45 and then maybe you're out by 10:30. They run on time. But before even that, Amy is literally one of the most badass chicks that I know.
True that.
When I started CrossFitting, period, any local comp that you go to, you probably don't even know that you know Amy Guerin, but you know Amy Guerin because she's usually on the podium.
Yeah, she's always on the podium.
Always. Her
sure.
and Kristen are just a force to be reckoned with. I know that she's recovering from a hip surgery right now, but she has always been this person in my life. And we always joke that she's one of my best pen pal friends because we don't see each other often, but we are always kind of going back and forth on DMs or texts or whatever.
Yep.
She has always been this person that through even before kids, after kids, postpartum, as far as strength, athleticism, success, wonderful wife, wonderful mother. She's always been such an aspirational role model for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just a baddie. You guys think that I'm strong and I'm fit. Y'all need to meet Amy Guerin.
Yeah.
She is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for supporting the podcast.
Yeah,
That just
shout
meant
out
so
to
much.
Grayson too. Grayson's a super good guy over there at West Tech running their CrossFit program, doing something good for the kids, the trajectory and the path that he's putting these kids on.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you know what I mean? The impact of that is not going to be measurable.
No.
You know?
And they have two amazing kids
They
that are
do,
about
around
the same age as our kids. And it's been so cool to watch them just grow. Mac is just such a cool kid. What did they do? The 100 days of skateboarding.
Yeah. That was super cool to watch.
It reminds me a lot of the way that you are with Uriah and just the intentionality. And then their little girl, Corey, is just a little force. She reminds me so much of Selah, where it's oh my gosh, watch out. What are they going to be at 15?
So thanks again, Amy Guerin. The Guerins, we love you. They're like our family crush. You know what I mean?
Totally.
We look up to them. It's cool to watch them in their growth.
Thank you guys so much.
So let's get into this. We got Coach Kiriah in the building. Let's just talk about her a little bit. She started CrossFitting in 2015. She's an L2 coach. She's been coaching for 6 years. She moved to Vegas in 2022 from Arizona. Shortly after becoming a member, joined our coaching team. She stepped away for a little while completing massage therapy school, but is back on the rotation at the gym, and we're so stoked to have her back.
Yes.
Welcome,
round of applause for Coach Kiriah.
Coach Kiriah is in the building. Say what's up to the people, Kiriah.
What's up, people?
Now, Kira's not new to us, but you're new to the podcast. So you know what we got to do. We got to hit you with the classic Social City intro. So go ahead and give the people your name, something cool on the bucket list, and your favorite Disney classic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, my name is Kira.
Hi,
Hello.
Kira.
Hi. Something on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to Australia.
That's cool.
I've always wanted to live in Australia.
Okay.
Not having gone there, I just
Yeah.
want to be there.
I dig it.
Just seems like a really fun place to be.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Always on your toes, with like spiders and
Oh
jellyfish
my
and
gosh,
stuff.
for sure. I don't know about the
animals.
critter. I
No,
feel like I
just-
want to visit there, but the critters are a little bit of a
I
deterrent.
know. I'd probably go there, see one spider, and then
I'm
get
out.
the heck
Peace.
out. And favorite Disney movie, it's always been The Lion King.
Mhm.
I used to have that on rotation like
Yeah.
24/7.
I dig it,
Hakuna
I dig it.
Matata.
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata. All right, before we get into today's subject and topic, we got to get our icebreaker in.
Yeah.
We're going to play a little this or that
Yeah.
with Coach Kiriah.
This is like the Coach Kiriah edition.
This is a
of
Coach
this
Kiriah
or
edition.
that. We have like 3 things, but we were like, okay, like when we think of Kiriah, what are the things that we want to know? So
So the first question is, if you guys don't know, Coach Kiriah loves her some Paramore. She has a Paramore tattoo.
I have 2.
She has 2 Paramore tattoos. I know the butterfly. What's the second?
Both of the ones on my legs, the butterfly, and then the girl on my right
yeah.
Oh.
leg. It's a depiction of a line from one of their songs, from Brick by Boring Brick, and it's about a girl with her feet on the ground, but her head's in the clouds. And I've always really
I love
resonated with that.
I love that.
line.
That's
so.
super cool.
I always liked that tattoo. I didn't even know like what it was.
It
No,
kind of
has-
looks like Betty Boop. People are like, "Is
Oh,
that Betty
okay.
Boop?" And I'm
I know
like,
what you're
it
talking
just
about.
didn't turn out the way
Well,
I thought it would.
speaking of songs, question number 1 is, which song is your favorite? Is it Misery Business or I'm Still Into You?
I love that one.
You're asking an impossible question. Literally impossible.
Misery Business or Still Into You? Which one could you listen to more on
There's
repeat?
just, I've probably listened to Misery Business more
Okay. Yeah.
because of its longevity. It's
Yeah,
been around
it's a
longer.
OG.
And it's OG is what put them on the map.
Yeah, for sure.
But Still Into You is just a bop. It's
It
a
is
vibe.
bop for
Yeah.
sure.
And
So
when I'm
groovy.
feeling good, I listen to Still Into You. And then when I'm feeling like I need to rage, it's Misery Business. So,
So you got to pick one. You got to pick one.
I mean, classic.
Classic
Misery Business.
Misery
Yeah.
Business.
I
it
thought
is.
that's what you were gonna pick.
Yeah.
I got it right.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. It's the OG.
It
All right,
is.
question number 2. Now that you're converted into eating meat, the steak option.
Ooh.
Do you prefer to eat a ribeye or a New York?
Oh, okay, I have to go New York
Okay.
because it's probably the cheapest.
Cost effective.
Fair answer.
Honestly, I still go grass-fed, grass-finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, the New York just tastes really good.
Okay.
I also am so new to eating meat that someone asked me a couple months ago, like, what's your favorite cut of meat? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what their names are.
We're still,
gotcha.
exploring.
Still exploring. Yeah,
I
for sure.
literally will just like buy it because like it looks good, and then I'll give it to my boyfriend and be like, cook it.
Yeah.
For sure. Cook that.
Went for Coach Kira's glow graduation party for her massage therapy school. We didn't bring flowers. We definitely brought a big steak.
We hit
was-
the butcher shop and
Yeah.
got her a
So
nice
good.
prime steak.
I was like,
for
"Are you gonna go
sure.
Sprouts?" I was like, "No, we got to go to the butcher block.
do.
We got to get her like a fresh piece of cut."
Yeah.
That was my favorite gift of the entire party. It was the one I used first, and yeah,
The most memorable.
one I
love that.
remember. Yeah.
If I had to choose, I'm a ribeye guy.
I know,
So
you like
it's
that
a little
marbly fat.
a little fat in there, gives it some flavor. But
I
I don't
like-
mind it in New York.
I like a fillet.
You do like a fillet.
I do love a
She likes
fillet.
that lean, soft, tender meat.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
kind of like my man.
Anyways, last question we got for Kira. This is your getaway option. This is a toss-up. We were trying to figure out which one you
Yeah.
would be. Would you prefer to go either on vacation to the beach or to the mountains?
The beach.
The beach. She's a
Immediately.
beach girl.
I'm a
I got
beach
that
girl.
one
You said
wrong.
mountains. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's kind of confusing. Already diving into my story a little bit. I was born in Huntington Beach, California,
Yeah.
but on the weekends, and I spent as much time in the mountains as I did in the beach. We would go up to our cabin, and I learned how to drive up there. I spent majority of my time in the mountains, but went to school and everything
In the
and
beach by the beach.
By the beach.
okay. Yeah.
So it's a
sense.
little bit of both, but I prefer to go in the water, sit on the sand, and just
Yeah.
like contemplate life.
I love that.
So, yeah.
It's like I would like
Grounding.
the beach with less people. I feel like that's
Yes.
the only reason why sometimes I defer to the mountains, where it's like I love the beach and the water and the grounding because I am like amazed at God's creation because I just look at the waves with this miraculous like point of view now where I'm like they just come in and out and in and out and they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
stop. And I think our kids help me really get that presence. But it's just way more packed and people and whatnot, where the mountains are a little quieter. So we just
Yeah.
need to find like a private beach that's really,
Yeah.
Something a little bit more quiet.
Yeah, for
Or
sure.
Go back to Florida. The Florida beaches are kind of calm.
oh yeah.
Different than Huntington.
This is a little tangent, but you can cut this out.
Oh,
if
go
it's-
ahead, no.
If it's too far off, but I was just watching a show that talked about a serious topic of death and kind of returning to where you came from after life and stuff. And he this guy was grieving for someone who just died. His father had just passed away. And he wasn't as sad as he thought he would be. And someone asked him, like, why aren't you as sad as you should be or whatever? And he was like, I kind of think of death as the waves coming in from the ocean. It comes in for a short time, does what it needs to, crashes on the shore, and then it returns back to the ocean.
Oh,
and
that's
used.
beautiful.
And so that really like resonated with me for a little bit. And I
that.
just watching the ocean, I was like, oh, I feel like that wave.
That's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the ocean is like life, you know?
It's
It's like
like-
a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It
Just
really
pulse,
is.
and the waves come in and they go out, like you said.
Yeah.
That's good. I
That's
like
good.
that.
I really like
Good
that.
one,
We
good
ain't cutting that out. I like that.
So we are excited for today's conversation because the three of us have all been on a life-changing food journey. While all of our motives have been different, we all have been experimenting with the animal-based diet. While the term for this diet is trending, the concept of this eating has been around for years. We get a lot of questions about how we eat, our discipline around food on social and in the gym. So we thought, what better way to share our experience than on this platform? So we have tested and tried a ton of different protocols.
Oh my gosh.
We've done macros, we've done zone, we've done paleo, we've done keto, we've done Whole30. We've done it all. I did vegetarian for 2 weeks.
I did
Avi
vegetarian for
wasn't-
7 years.
Avi
When
was a
Owen and I
vegetarian
met.
for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
And then Coach Kiriah was vegan
Yeah.
for how long?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. Let me make sure that math is right. But
That math is
Seven.
mathing.
The math is
Math
mathing.
a
7
lot
to 8
longer
years.
than I should have been.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna dive into what the animal-based diet is, right? What it consists of, and isn't it just keto? You know, there's all these perceptions of what people think it is, right? So an animal-based diet primarily focuses on consuming foods that come from animals. This includes meat.
Meat.
What's
meat?
That's a combination.
Meat.
Meat, beef, pork, chicken, lamb, and other meats, fish and seafood, anything from salmon. Salmon
Salmon and beef.
You know, I say salmon.
meat.
Salmon. I'm on a roll today. Salmon and tuna to shellfish like shrimp and lobster. You got animal fats, butter, lard, tallow, and you got eggs from chickens or ducks or whatever else makes eggs, huh? We got dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, and cream. And then some versions of this protocol may also include minimal plant-based foods like fruit, vegetables, or honey, but the emphasis is on animal-derived foods. This diet is high in protein and fats and often low in minimal processed carbs. Yeah, so it's cool because you can eat in abundance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the foods that you're consuming is very nutrient dense. And what I've learned from this is that I get this feeling of being satiated, which is kind of hard to do when you do throw in those like processed type of carbs. So
Yeah.
for me, I really enjoy the cutting board. If you guys have seen it or following us, the cutting board is a vibe too, because it actually slows me down in my meals to eat. Because I feel like we get into a mode of when food comes, food is kind of at the bottom of our priority list, even if it's what we know we need to consume. We kind of rush through it because we're in a rush throughout our day. So sometimes like people stand while they're eating while they're driving. So the cutting board has been a completely different experience because it's on there and the steak is not cut yet. So I have to cut a slice or two and then I eat it. And then I put my fork and my knife down and like figure out what I'm going to eat next. So it's like, all right, avocado, sip of my jar of raw milk.
Yeah. It's
But
almost been like
but
an
it slows
art
me
project
down.
for me
Yeah.
a little bit. Like when we started doing the board, it really was like, this is like aesthetic, right? Where I was like, oh, we're going to do the board because we've seen that. And then it became like an art project for me of like, okay, like how am I going to fill this board? Like, how do I lay it out? And it's actually made preparing meals like a little bit more enjoyable for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it almost reminds me of like when I was trying to get Uriah to like try different foods, like all my little tactics of like the mashed potato mountain and the broccoli trees and the little dinosaurs or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just the adult version now.
For
Yeah.
sure. So let's back it up a little bit because Kira has done a literal 180 in her
Yes.
food journey when it comes to this journey.
Yeah.
And we would love for you to share. So she was hardcore vegan and has recently joined the animal-based club, getting her nutrition now primarily from animal-based foods. So I know we talked about it, but how 7-8 years as a vegan?
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to go back to like
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us
give
about
your
your
history
journey.
about
Like how you got
history of
to that
nutrition.
June 27th, 1997,
Oh,
when I was
wow.
born. I was raised a vegetarian along with my two sisters. My parents had been vegetarian since their teenage years for animal rights reasons
Mhm.
and health reasons of their own.
For sure.
And they just raised us that way. It wasn't an intentional, like, you're a vegetarian, you don't eat meat. It was just like, this is what we had in the house. My
Yep.
parents are amazing cooks, and they just provided us with, I was blessed to just be fulfilled by a bunch of variety of food.
Mhm.
So vegetarian, we ate everything but meat. Okay,
Yep.
so we still had like pizza and cheese and all the stuff, and enchiladas, a lot of it homemade,
Yeah.
but just very heavy on vegetables, tofu, and cheese and milk. And then
So during that phase, it was like a pretty clean vegan.
Or
though,
vegetarian.
vegetarian,
Okay,
yeah,
vegetarian.
yeah. It was fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. I wasn't really aware of what I was eating until I was like maybe 11 or 12, and I
Okay.
was at a friend's birthday party, and I just randomly had a hot dog.
It's like the worst thing you could have.
I don't know why. It was just I apparently was just not aware of what I was eating. Again, like it was never a rule. You're a vegetarian. You
Yeah.
don't eat this. It was
Just
It wasn't
not available.
restrictive.
Yes, no, not restrictive at all. My parents weren't super obsessed with food. They weren't super obsessed with body image, which was good. I still had those issues down the line, but it was just never a really topic of conversation of intentional eating,
Got it.
Yeah.
which has its downfalls.
Yes.
And I ate that first hot dog and then never looked back. And at every other birthday party from then on out, I was eating the fried chicken and all this stuff. Like I really dove into eating whatever I wanted and kind of became self-aware. It was like, that looks good, I'm gonna eat it. All throughout my like middle school years, just ate what was there. So like a lot of fast food, Wendy's, whatever, just like hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah. And then I hit like freshman year, and like the summer before freshman year, I had just randomly gotten into working out and thinking about my nutrition. Probably just saw a YouTube video of someone getting fit and was like, I want to do that. So it really all started like the summer before freshman year. And I came back to school and I had lost like 10 pounds. And everyone was like, you look so good. What happened? Like you dropped a lot of weight. And for a freshman girl, that's
Oh my gosh, yeah.
music to my ears. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going to dive into this. And kind of went down the disordered eating route of just like restricting a lot, like would not eat for a day. And then the next day would eat as much as I could and just like kind of flip flopped back and forth, which was a lot of ups and down in my weight and my self-worth and, you know, just all the things that food does affect.
Yeah.
And then kind of just went throughout high school like that. And then I got out of high school and moved to Arizona with my sister. And I was kind of forced to go to CrossFit.
We call that fitness
Like,
bullying.
Yeah, like she was like, you're not doing anything. You're coming with me to the gym. So I started getting into CrossFit. I'm still not really aware of what I was eating, just was kind of just, so I was still in this like mindset of eating super clean or eating as little as possible and then
Yeah.
trying to also do CrossFit and survive. And
I've been there
then
too.
I just realized that that wasn't working for me. So I was like, well, let me go get educated. And I did an online course in nutrition coaching and counseling. And I'm technically a certified nutrition coach. And the whole basis of that program was like a plant-based diet.
Got it.
And then build on top of that. But all that I heard at 18 years old was plant-based.
Got it.
And so I just tried it one day and was like, oh, I love this. I feel good. Not really in tune with what my body was actually feeling like. And I was just like, this is a new fad. I'm watching all the documentaries now. Plant-based is like the second you say it, your feed is just plant-based.
Oh,
news.
yeah.
Totally.
You're indoctrinated with all of the propaganda and all the stuff that you want to say about veganism. And for the first month, my family kind of laughed at me, even though my parents were still vegetarian. My sisters had started eating meat, and they were like, "Why are you going back to being vegan? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, whatever." And then a month later, everybody jumped on board. Everybody in my family watched all the documentaries, and they all started going vegan.
Yeah. And that was inspired from your
From
journey.
me,
Okay,
yes,
got it.
which I take responsibility for.
She was the pusher of veganism,
I
kind of how
was,
Abby's the pusher
yeah.
of products.
And
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's so religious. It's,
Oh, yeah.
It's such a following. Like once you go vegan, you find all the vegan people
Yeah.
and then you hate anybody who eats meat.
Yeah.
You're like, you're
Well, there's
so
an emotion
wrong.
that's attached to it. I think when you make those, like when you're in something that's considered like an extreme, right? Like animal based can be considered extreme too, but it's more than food at that point. Your relationship with food can definitely impact that. And I think if you have, as a female especially, because I don't know, men have body image issues, but I don't think that they struggle with the relationship with food at the same level that girls do, just based off aesthetics. So then it's like, if your body is starting to look the way that you want to, or it's easier to maintain weight or like stay in that zone, and then you have this like emotional relationship with the protocol that you feel called to, or that you're really deep into it, I think it becomes a much more complex relationship than just a choice of what's on your plate.
Yeah.
It's way deeper than that. The psychology around it, the way that like your why, right? All of that has such an impact. And when you're passionate about, I'm notorious for this. My dad still gives me crap I worked at Red Bull for 10 years. I started out as a Red Bull girl in the car before managing that program and moving up the ladder. And to this day, because he still drinks sugar-free Red Bull, he's like, well, remember, you told me it was healthy. I was like, Dad, I was like 20 years old, like I'm 39. Like we know better now, but it's still that thing because I was so passionate just about that. And I think like anything, like you will find information that supports any argument that you want to have, any protocol that you want to live on. There's going to be data that backs it. And so depending on what your feed is, depending on the information that you're getting, it's like you can always find things to either encourage your decisions or debunk other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
It's a 50-50 shot. Whatever you believe in is going to be the opposite of what she believes in, the opposite of what I believe in. That's why I'm so big on being experience-based. Like, man, you just got to try it out. And I think you have to give it a good go for 30 days to be able to compare what you felt like, what your performance was like, and decide like, okay, like I either felt better or I felt worse, but at least I know what I can or can't eat or do.
And I think also acknowledging that like you can change your mind when you have more information, and that you also can change your mind based off experience. Like I was a vegetarian for 7 years, and like when O and I first met, I think I had barely started eating chicken. And I remember that was kind of like a point of contention in our relationship because O made me bacon, and I was like, bro,
the first
like
morning I was like, make a breakfast.
Yeah, he made bacon. And I was like,
you better eat this bacon.
And
it's a jump.
Yeah, but I liked him so much. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try it. Like, here we go. And it was still a journey on that even then. And I was so passionate about it. But mine was so rooted in restrictive eating, because I had kind of bought into the lie of like, if I eat vegetarian, it's just by nature lower calories and it's easier to kind of stay within this, and I can eat in abundance. And I've always done better with protocols where I can eat in abundance with guardrails around like what those things are. And again, I didn't realize how crappy I felt until you influenced me to become a meat eater again. I think that was like one of the biggest things my dad loved about you, is that all of a sudden my stepmom wasn't having to make a side dish to accommodate me.
Right? Yeah, I had a good influence on your nutrition and other things. So speaking of how you felt, how did you I mean, when you were in it, you probably just thought it was normal. Like you said, you felt great in the beginning, but now where you are in your food journey, how would you compare how you felt then as a vegan versus how you feel now?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Strange. I've always had gut and digestive issues, like always. It didn't really start becoming apparent to me until a couple years into being vegan. Because, I mean, anytime you make a change with your nutrition in a positive way and it's intentional and you're thinking about cutting out processed foods and stuff and eating more whole foods based, you're going to start to feel better. Whether you're coming from being carnivore for a long time or just like eating fast food all the time to eating super clean vegan, like you're going to feel better. So at the beginning I felt better. And then all of the processed meats started coming into my diet because I was also super worried about my macros for CrossFit. And I started getting really obsessed with like how much of this can I have right now? And so a lot of the ways that you get your protein and stuff is through processed meats that are vegan. And I started having even worse digestive problems. Like my stomach just hurt all of the time. It doesn't matter what I ate. And now looking back on it, I was eating like a bowl of vegetables as the base and then tofu on top of that. So just like all of the hard hitting like fiber for your gut and for a gut that might already be predisposed to being like stressed out, because I also had lifestyle stress on top of that. It was just a recipe for disaster, and I started feeling really crappy. Coming to the other side, to the cool kids, to the club, I had the same feeling that I had when I first went vegan, and I was like, I feel amazing. Like my stomach feels good. Like I feel like I have energy. And the thing that's different about that is it hasn't changed since then. It's been since October of last year that I went animal based. And from day one, I felt a difference, and I still feel different now. I feel like I have more energy. My stomach doesn't hurt as often unless I have something that's kind of like outside the
range.
Yeah.
But do you think that's like part of the machine is to feed us into, or feed vegans into these processed Beyond Burgers and Beyond Meats? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about the machine? We can go super deep
I
into
mean,
that.
because I feel that way about like the almond milks and the oat milks and stuff. You know, I just feel like we got indoctrinated to be like dairy is bad and everyone's suffering from
specifically
lactose
right
intolerant. But like until you learn, that's why we're so big into raw dairy. But like commercialized dairy is basically toxic for you because they pasteurize it, they heat it up, they kill all the nutrients that it needs, they kill the whole amino profile, And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, wow, this dairy upsets my stomach. And you're like, well, yeah, because it's basically toxic when it
I mean,
reaches the grocery
it's
store.
two different food groups. If you look at the composition of what raw dairy is, like the benefits of it, the nutrients in it, the probiotics, like all of those things, and then you look at your traditional dairy that you're buying from your conventional store and you think you're doing a good job, whether it's skim milk or even the whole milk that's there, let alone getting into oat milk. Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah.
Like this, it's basically like liquid seed oil that you're consuming.
But there are good oat milks and almond milks out there. You have to search for it.
It's very difficult to find. But most people aren't even aware of that. They just know that alternative dairy is supposed to be healthy because nutrition is so confusing. And like we just said, it doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on, for veganism, against like animal-based, for dairy, not for dairy, like gluten. You're going to find arguments for anything that you want to support. It's like any hot topic, right? You can find data that will back it. So it is really about experimentation. And I really think it's about bio-individuality and lifestyle and what you can do consistently. And you're only going to know what's best for you based off of that experience. Like I was a vegetarian for 7 years, but it wasn't out of breaking for animals or anything like that. It actually had come from the trauma of losing my mom, because my mom, it was a fantastic chef. And meat was always the centerpiece of our food and our dinners and whatnot. And after I lost her, I had realized unintentionally, I was kind of like picking around the meat. And then there was this kind of like cool kid factor. Like I always wanted to be like a little like crunchy hippie. I always had that like in me. And I loved kind of the being different part of being a vegetarian, because at the time it definitely was not like a popular thing. And I thought that was the version of healthy. And I look back now and I lived off Caesar salads and like fettuccine Alfredo. Like,
I had that same kind of mindset around going vegan. I was like, I'm going back to like what my parents believe in, and I feel like I'm more connected to them. And this is in a stage of life where like I had really not gotten along with my parents. We have a great relationship, but it's not like we
just
talk
the
every day.
nature.
We just have like a distant relationship is what I'll say. And like it helped me feel closer to my family that I felt so disconnected from. Like I've just got a lot of issues in the background happening with that. And it's like being vegan helped me feel like, I'm a part of this family. You know, like I feel part of something, feeling like an outsider for so long.
Got it.
I'm the youngest of 3. My sisters are 10 and 12 years older than me.
Yeah, the age gap.
So there's a huge disconnect. Like we're in different generations basically.
Totally.
My oldest sister is going on 40 this year and I haven't even hit 30. So I'm like, we just like never really related. And then I like brought everybody veganism and it's like, the family's going to unite on veganism. And now that I'm back to being animal based or diving into this world for the first time, everybody's kind of looked at me like,
wait a second.
Like
really?
The person who brought us veganism? Like weird. And they'll make those comments and stuff, but the majority of my family has been really accepting of it. Yeah. Which is also another kind of healing thing for me.
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
Like I lived with my parents and then I lived with my sister who was like a second mom.
Totally.
And then moving out after 7 years of being so close with them into Vegas of all places with my boyfriend of all people, like it was just like I'm making a lot of like adult decisions and nobody's stopping me, like nobody's I mean they're probably all silently judging me for certain decisions I make. I've been judged on every tattoo I've ever gotten. Like, that's just what
that's part of the journey though. I think with families it's like usually based out of love, but it's still the nature of if you have that closeness, like it's just I think part of the overlap that can happen, you know?
Yes, for sure. And so like this journey of going animal based has been like another like big girl decision that like I've done for myself. I feel really good about it.
You look really good too. I mean, I like when you've always looked great. Like Kira's a stunner. If you guys aren't watching on YouTube, like I'm just telling you right now, she won't claim it, but she is. But it's like the difference because you went away for massage therapy school. So we're talking through text and keeping up, but I hadn't like seen you in person. Yeah. And and I would always talk in the background, like nothing against veganism, but just knowing the way that we train and the demand on our bodies and just how well you move and how serious you've taken your training, we'd always be like, gosh, like could you imagine if she was like fueled by meat? Like if she was fueled at all. You move so well, your pattern of movement, like your commitment to excellence, and that is something I've always admired about you. But it's like as a coach and as a friend, I'd always be like, I would just love to see her fueled differently, to see how her performance is impacted. Yeah. But also like the color of your skin. Like you came back
Yeah, for sure.
and like
you had a glow.
yes,
The
and
glow up.
it is a glow up that happens from just I think general health and like balance and whatnot. But it was such a noticeable thing that it wasn't just us. When you walked in, it was like, Kira looks different. Like what's different? We're like she's eating meat. She's eating
I know
meat.
Becca was like, I knew the second you walked in the door that you were eating meat.
It was I remember when you first texted me, she sent me a text and was like, it was like out of the blue, it was like, hey, so I'm thinking about like eating meat and like raw milk. And I looked at Omar, I was like, I have been waiting for this moment.
It was so random.
Yes.
We were in the middle of moving like from house to house. And I just like, we were in the garage and I looked at my boyfriend. I was like, I think I need to start eating meat.
What did he say?
That was
when
going to
you
be my
like-
next question. Like, was there like an event or something that occurred for you to be
Dude.
like, you know what? I think I need to try something else out.
No,
with my
I think
nutrition.
it was the slow drip.
Okay.
Like the slow drip of you guys specifically. Like I can remember a specific day where I was like foam rolling on the ground and we were talking about nutrition and you were like, so you never eat meat? And I was like, never. And he was like, you said like, never say never.
Hey.
I did
And I
say
was
that.
like, no, never. But I also started listening to a lot of Paul Saladino, who's
Got it.
like the champion of animal based. He's a really extreme. He's eating raw organs, and that's disgusting to me. But
Yeah, that
I'll
takes you to a
take
new level.
I'll take the desiccated organ pills, but that's about as far as I can
Yeah,
go.
same.
But just all this, like he came at it from a very scientific point of view and was very not non-biased, but he was like, I've tried the different things. I've done the different things. And I couldn't say that. I couldn't
Yeah,
say that I've tried
done.
everything.
Yep.
And I was like, I can't be trying to help people as a coach specifically too, because people would come up to me and ask me for nutrition
Yeah.
advice. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm vegan. It's the only way. Like I was like, I can't fully stand on like a solid foundation and say that when I haven't tried anything else.
Yeah.
And so my complete mindset shift has just been like, never say never,
Oh,
basically.
so true.
Like, don't hold yourself back from something because it's scary or like it's unfamiliar to you or you don't have all the answers right now. Like I had no idea how meat was gonna like make me feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had told myself for so long that I was gonna just get really sick
Yeah.
and the dairy would hurt my stomach and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And then I had a burger that first night, like we made burgers for my first meal. And I was like, I don't feel so bad. Like
Yeah.
I didn't like have
As bad as I
raging
thought I
food
would.
poisoning.
Yeah.
I did have one weird, like 3 nights in a row, the first night, the second night, and the third night of being newly animal based. I had insomnia
Yeah.
because I had so much energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ate the meat at night, obviously, and there's a lot of studies saying that red meat before bed is like obviously gonna do that to you and cause insomnia, and it did. But I definitely think it was just like an energy thing. My body was like, oh my
Whoa,
gosh, we have fuel, we
Yeah.
have nutrients.
Yeah.
What is this? And I was like, oh, that's a huge sign. Like I have not been performing even at 60% of what I could have been for the last 7-8 years of my life.
And you were in production as well with like late night schedules and
Yeah.
like that's a lot of demand, not just like mentally draining, it's physically draining as well because those hours go long, or it's like when you're doing production, like you're there till it's done. It's not a clock in, clock out on top of intense training, and it does make such a difference in your energy level. Like when we decided to do animal based, it was really around like managing inflammation for both of us.
Yes.
O has needs a double knee replacement, as well as all the injuries from his motorcycle accident that he was told he would never walk again unassisted, and so there's just
So we
natural-
did keto for a while, and
Yeah.
people would always associate keto with like a weight loss thing. So they're like, why
Yeah.
are you doing
Oh, yeah.
keto? People lose weight on that. I'm like, it's not for that, man. It's like I've got inflammation in my body,
Yep.
and this has been the best thing so far to help manage it. But going back to the machine, once keto picked up as a trend, then these major food companies started packaging all these weird foods and desserts
Yep.
and putting keto on it.
Yep.
And then I just remember one night I was eating some like keto peanut
Keto
butter
cookies
cup.
or something. Yeah.
And like the
Oh, that
gummy,
was
the
like-
gummy kicked in, and when the gummy kicks in, you can taste all the ingredients. And I'm
He's like,
eating,
"I can
and I'm
taste
like,
the chemicals."
wait a second, like they're just chemicals in this.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste right. And then I flip
Yeah.
over the package, and I'm like, wow, there's a list of 47 ingredients in this thing that's supposed to be keto. I was like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Well, and I came from beverage for a good 14 years, and I think that I've always been a little bit more aware about ingredients. But when I started getting really serious about it was when my rheumatoid arthritis really started to kick in, and the flares were getting pretty unbearable.
Yep.
And starting to associate that, like, started with seed oils, like cut those out, and that's in everything. And I always joke with people where it's like, everyone's like, you're so disciplined. And I'm like, yeah, well, I have like a shock collar around me when it comes
Yeah.
to nutrition. So I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but it did force the hand of like, I had to experiment to see what worked. And I have a long history of a bad relationship with food. I had undiagnosed eating disorders growing up. I would take pride in how long I could go without eating. I tried eating and purging and realized that like I was still hungry. And so that was not the path for me. But we went to an arts high school where there was no sports. I've always been pretty tall and broad, even though I didn't play sports. I just had that build. And I'll never forget our theater changing room it was in the dance hallway with all the dance majors. Yeah. And I remember even at a young age, like realizing like, I'm never going to look like that and thinking I could force my body into that from deprivation. And then from there went into the beverage world and a lot of nightlife activity. And if you guys know anything about the cocktail waitresses in Vegas, they're some of the most well-produced, beautiful women you've ever seen in your life, whether that's natural or some additional aesthetics. But it was still that world of realizing like, I'm not like this. And then I found CrossFit and obviously like learned to accept my body for the performance and then really learned to love my body. But then to go from
I
that.
love your body too.
Oh, wait. 2 babies to show for that. But to go from that and then my autoimmune disease where it was like, okay, I had finally found a love for my body and what it did. And then realizing that my body was actually attacking itself and actually the thing that was causing me so much pain, it had to like re-dive into my relationship with food in a different way. Because I think at first when we did animal based, I was telling, it was very difficult for me because it felt very limited in terms of like eating out and the quality and whatnot. And it forced yet again, like another growth pattern that had to happen for me. But I always do better. Like I said, if there's clear guardrails of like what you can eat, eating in abundance, eating till I'm satiated. Because when I would go outside of those realms, whether was eating pasta or eating processed snacks, women tend to undereat anyways. And I would always overestimate what I could have. Where now it's like, if I'm starving, it's like my plate is stacked. Like I will eat.
I love it when you eat. It's my favorite thing you do.
I know you
Eat it up. Eat it up.
But it made such a difference. And then for me to be able to manage my flares from a food perspective, because I mean, remembers like it would take one bite, one lick, one taste of things. And sometimes like I would be in bed for 2 days afterwards and then having to backtrack what I ate. And to be able to have that food freedom now of like, I can eat in abundance, even eating out. I know what my guardrails are. And now if I have flares, it's more lifestyle driven of stress and whatnot and managing the inflammation. And I will also say this, one of the biggest noticeable differences for me outside of flares is it's very normal for women's weight to go up when they're during their cycle. Super common.
Every week is different.
Every week can be different. And I'm a data person, so sometimes hates this, but I love tracking data. I love my Garmin watch. Before that, it was my Whoop. I like to weigh in often to kind of just see where I was on that inflammation scale. But for probably a good 18 months, I would literally shift up 15 to 20 pounds a month from my inflammation being so bad and just out of control within my own system. So you had the cycle happening anyways, but then the mental load of that as a female that works so hard and is so diligent about their nutrition, that like one time your gene fits, then a week later you put them on, and 20 pounds of inflammation's a lot. And I would say probably the last 2 or 3 months, my weight has actually stayed pretty consistent. I'm only up like maybe 2, 3, maybe 5 pounds during my cycle. Nice. So to see that difference from a data perspective, while I felt great and I felt like my skin has gotten better and my energy levels, like I've been cutting down my coffee, which is real hard for me. But all of those things, but then to see that data to back it, I'm like,
that's what keeps you hooked.
100%. Because I look at people and people are like, you're extreme. That fasters are extreme. I'm like, I live with an extreme disease that impacts every day of my life. It consumes my thoughts around food, and to at least have the freedom to be able to make myself a plate and not wonder like, oh, you're rolling the dice? I know. Like, here's the gamble. Yeah. Like, what a difference that's made.
Speaking of plate, tell us a little bit about what your diet looks like and consists of. Like, what's the morning, lunch, dinner routine or plate look like?
I wish I could give you like the perfect routine. I've always been that person that watches like a million morning routines, and then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. No, but I have a pretty consistent routine right now with food. It's really just a lot of ground beef, some steak, fruit, a lot of fruit, like grapes, strawberries, blueberries, bananas, all the different fruits that I can get my hands on, especially in the summertime, like watermelon. I'm just constantly eating watermelon.
Uriah, dude, he smashes watermelon. I feel like we should invest in like.
And it feels good to be able to eat like large quantities of it, because I I have maybe like a scoop of rice with my dinner.
Yeah.
But that's really my most processed carb.
Yep,
And that's
same.
still closer to the like whole food.
Still a single ingredient.
Yeah. And like, yeah, some sweet potato here and there, like turkey and stuff. It's just, I'm very much a girl dinner type of person.
Yeah.
Like I just go and I grab like a piece of turkey and then I won't eat for an hour. And then I go and grab like whatever. And then late at night, it's like, oh, I haven't even eaten like a full meal today. And then I'll make a big bowl of ground beef, like squash and zucchini, because it's technically a fruit.
Yeah.
That's like Paul Saladino's.
Totally.
It's like, it's a fruit. And then, yeah, whatever side I want, like a dessert. So like yogurt and like I make a little parfait.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yogurt
That's Abby's
with fruit
favorite.
and
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of raw honey.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got like that quart of raw honey from our plug.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so thick and
I
grainy. I love it.
Can't stop. I eat it at every meal.
Yeah.
It's
Same.
so
So good.
good.
Raw
It's like
honey
what we
and
use.
everything.
It's what we use to
Yeah.
sweeten our coffee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I am
yeah.
really big on. I'll do like the full fat. We'll get like raw yogurt and cut up peaches. Like peaches. I've been on a peach kit lately because they're in season. So we'll cut up some peaches. I do some like cinnamon raw honey, and like even I made that for the kids the other night, and they were like smashing it. And I just
Yeah.
thought like, man, like what a gift to give to them as well, to realize that you can be
Yes.
satiated. And I feel like when people hear this stuff, again, if you've never experienced, it sounds so extreme because
does.
especially when I go through my list of things I can't eat, it feels extreme. But what you don't realize is on the other side of that, when you're eating single ingredient foods, number one, you can eat in abundance. And as a female, I think that is so empowering because I think we are so obsessed with counting calories and not counting chemicals.
Hey.
And I'm really big. I always, when people start with nutrition, I'm like, don't start with counting your calories. Count the amount of chemicals, because that inflammation and what that's wreaking havoc in your gut has a greater impact than you realize. When we were even 200 years ago, 100 years ago, nobody was walking around with food scales and like measuring what they ate. We've really only had to implement that since the Industrial Revolution, where sugar became it's like the greatest drug
It
in the
is.
Sugar and
US.
oils.
No one's talking about
And
it.
seed oils and everything, where it's like, yeah, if you want to eat an Oreo, you're probably going to need to measure it because it's not actually a food. Like that's
Yeah.
not even a real
Let
food.
me make sure I measure my Oreos.
Yeah.
But
You guys are talking about food disorders, which I think is like a female dominant thing. I'm over
Totally.
here. I'm like, I've never had like a food disorder. I've ate pretty much anything, but I did have an addiction to sugar.
100%.
You know, that I realize now that I'm in my 40s doing this animal-based thing. And like you said, people go, why do you guys got to be so extreme about it? It's like, well, because I had an addiction. Like, why aren't we talking about this?
Yeah.
People are getting hooked on these processed foods that they stuff ingredients that like trick and alter your brain to thinking you're still hungry. So you continue to consume and you're like, why am I
Yes.
not full yet? You know what I mean? So my thing, like the moderation talk sometimes drives me nuts when people are like, it's okay in moderation. And you're
Yeah.
like, what
Don't
part
get me
of like
started.
something being toxic or poisonous is okay in moderation?
Yeah.
Like, can we admit that alcohol is a poison? Like,
Right.
like no dissing anyone. Like, can we all like? Can we
You
all
can
just
agree
admit
on that.
it's
It's
a
ethanol.
poison?
If
You
you
know
drink
what I mean?
too much of it, you can die. And it's we have fed ourselves the lie that moderation is key, where it's like the reality. Have you ever actually tried cutting any of it out instead of using the excuse of moderation? Because that's always my challenge to people. It's not a judgment thing. We've been on the other side.
Yes.
It's always that thing for us of like, if we've been on the other side of things, if we're saying something, it's based off experience and based off the benefit. And I always look at people that like going from vegan to animal based. It's like you've been on the other side of things. So it's not a knock on veganism because you were a vegan and you believed in that. And there are some people that I think if you do choose to do veganism, like you can do it better than others, right? Because you have to be so intentional. And the reality is people are lazy when it comes to change, and
Yeah.
food is hard. Like
is
food
hard.
is an emotional thing.
Because you can do that behind closed doors when no one's watching.
100%.
That's a big deal.
And it also is like the change between the ears that's the biggest part. It's not just what's on your plate, and being able to address that, and also being honest with the language that you use to excuse bad behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you going to die if you have an Oreo?
No.
I
that's-
will.
Yeah.
Some people will.
If I have
Yeah,
an
for
Oreo,
sure.
I am laying down in the fetal position. Like,
There
my
you
stomach
go.
hurts.
But it's also one of those things where it's like if you use the excuse of moderation, then you're really limiting yourself to be able to have the full experience of what it's like to find what's best for you. And I think we can all agree that when we look around, like obesity is an issue, heart disease is an issue, diabetes is an issue,
Yeah.
brain fog is an issue, behavioral problems is an issue, ADHD in your kids is an issue. But we never want to actually look at the root
And
cause.
what's feeding most of that?
Yes.
Sugar.
Sugar,
Yeah.
food colorings,
Yeah.
ingredients you can't pronounce. Now they're even going as far as changing the name of ingredients because people are starting to catch up to the curve. So it used to be Red 40. Now I can't remember what the alternative is that they've named it. I'll put a link in the show notes. But it's one of those things
I love
where
that
it's
Uriah
like,
knows what Red 40 is now. Those got Red 40.
but I
in
mean,
them.
our kids are kind of a great example of that, right? Like we don't limit them. It's not like they don't have ice cream or don't eat out, or that when they go to the grandparents, they don't get to have like indulgence, right? But when you eliminate that stuff out of your cabinet and it's not what they're regularly reaching for, the difference in behavior in your children is gigantic. And I think we've also fed as parents, it's going to ruffle some feathers, but it's the truth. Sometimes we like to use the excuse of like, well, I grew up eating that and I'm fine. It's like, but are we fine? Because 1 in 3 women have an autoimmune disease. Cancer is on the rise. We're looking at diabetes now. Like it is just we don't even blink at it because it's such a common thing that we're seeing.
They're making it so comfortable to eat toxins.
Yeah,
like they're making it so easy.
Yeah.
to
And like I
just
said, I've
grab
been a
and
victim
go.
of it. Like the almond milk, the oat milk. I'm like, cool, this is a healthier version of dairy, basically. But then they start to label stuff, and you go, okay, this label looks like it's healthy, it's organic, this or whatever the case may be. And then you flip over to the ingredients, like, man, is that really what I
And
should be
there's so much
eating?
information out there that
Yeah,
it
there
is
is.
so overwhelming
Overload.
for people that it is that difficult thing of like, you've got to like know that it's going to be hard in the beginning, but any change is hard. But also, if you're even remotely curious, if you're someone that's sitting and listening to this and you're like, man, dude, like I don't have energy. I don't feel great, whether that's the way that you feel about yourself in the mirror or it's actually physically how you feel. It's overwhelming at first, but any change is going to be that. And it's like you have to think of it as like turning a cruise ship. You're not a speedboat. And so habits are going to happen small
over
and
time.
slowly, and you start
It's gonna drip like it did over to Kira.
yeah, you just and it's also, I think, again, it goes, we always talk about proximity, like get in touch with people that have experience or that are emulating the things that you want. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly the same for you. It may not work, like animal based might not be for everyone, but I think everyone can benefit from eliminating as much processed stuff in their diet as possible.
Yep.
Because here's the reality. A lot of the stuff that's sold on the US shelves, it's illegal to be sold in other countries, including coffee. Like I just read an article about this gigantic delivery that was supposed to go to Japan of coffee, and they wouldn't accept it in customs because the amount of glyphosate that was found in it. And they literally turned around and just sold it to the US because they said the US
They'll
will take it.
Yeah, for sure. How sad is that, man?
Yeah, so the system is set up for you guys to fail. So don't internalize it as though you're failing. The system, the deck is stacked against us when it comes to nutrition. Even the quality of our organic food is nothing compared to when you get outside of the US because our soil has been so depleted. It's not mineralized.
Right.
Nutrient density is so different than the food was 50 years ago, but that's not an excuse to not try to do better for yourself.
I mean, it's all that information that kept me from eating meat for the longest time.
Yep.
I was like meat curious, like for the first couple of months before I actually made
Hashtag meat curious.
Meat curious. I was seeing all of the information, the scientific studies that meat caused cancer and meat caused heart disease.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, going and eating Wendy's, like a burger every day. Yeah, that causes heart disease.
Yep.
But like eating like organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, finding that like the right kind of meat and the right, it takes work to do
Yes,
that.
it does.
It was like, I don't have time to do that. I don't
Yeah,
have
it's
time to go
overwhelming.
I don't have money to go spend on that. But then like you have to think in future terms, which at my age is really difficult to do. And it's been such a journey to like think about the future and not the right now.
It's cheaper than cancer, guys.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, for me, it was a breaking point of not wanting to like feel crappy anymore and wanting my gut to feel better.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And this is what I am being told I have to do. So I'm going to at least try it.
Yeah.
And if
Sure.
it doesn't work, I can change my mind. And
At
that
least
was
have
that was also a
experience.
big deal, was changing my mind.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I am the vegan. Like,
Yeah,
you knew
that's what you were
me
that was part of
as
your
the
brand.
vegan. Yeah. I had like all the cult, like the 3 C's, like church, CrossFit, and veganism.
Yeah.
I don't remember why I was a C, but I was like in all of the cults.
Yeah.
Coming out of veganism was like leaving the church.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's a
oh,
big
you're
change.
stepping out. Like, you, the person who like told me to be
Yeah.
vegan with you.
Yeah.
I like convinced every boyfriend I had that I was when I was vegan to go vegan.
Yeah.
And then like the second we broke up, they like started eating meat. It's like that didn't stick.
Great, I'm out of that relationship. I can go back to eating meat.
Totally.
So what kind of advice would you give someone who is just like, man, I'm feeling exhausted, tired, like I know my energy levels are low and I need to make a change? Like, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is looking to clean up their nutrition?
I hate giving advice.
How about insight, man? It's not advice, it's insight.
This is like insight from my perspective is just try something new. If what you're doing is not working for you, try something new. Like go ask someone who is like it is working for, like one of you guys or anybody else in the club. Like, is that working for you? What did you have to do to get there? Like, do your research.
Yeah.
I'm a big research person, and yes, like personal experience is the best teacher, but like if you're too scared to make like have that experience for yourself, just go and learn. I'm a big proponent of just learning.
And I think the barrier to entry a lot of times around like quality of meat, for example, because not all meat is created equal. And it's like veganism, I think like points that out really well, like sick animal, sick person. That's how that works. It's a trickle down effect. But I always encourage people where it's like, okay, like we spend more money on our groceries than our mortgage, and we're a single income family. But it requires sacrifices in other areas. But for me, my health, like I have an autoimmune disease. And so it's very different because like I said, there's a little bit of a shock collar around my nutrition where it's like there's an actual immediate consequence to bad decisions. But I look at our children and I look at the longevity model of like where I want to be. And the reality is the sicker that you are, the more limited you're going to be. And it's going to cost you money at some point. It's just, do you want to spend that money on the front end to be proactive, or do you want to spend the money on the back end, pay medical bills and chasing into not understanding why you have chronic pain or chronic issues, or God forbid, like cancer or something like that. And the attitude that everything causes cancer, whatever. I can tell you I have friends that have survived cancer, and I guarantee you that they will tell you that it would be worth not having to go through that and making the lifestyle changes. Because sometimes we use that as like this blanket excuse, like, well, everything causes cancer, so what's the point? And it's like, well,
it's almost like this doomsdayer like ideas in people's heads, like, well,
it's going to happen anyways.
So
but once you realize that there's healing in food, then once you get on that train, you're like, dude, I can't get off because I feel so much better. My inflammation is down. My energy levels are high.
Well, I want to share like a quick story and then we can move on. Becca at the gym is an IHP, integrative health practitioner. And so she started her practice and she's been working with one of her girlfriends that has the breast cancer gene, the BRCA gene. And she's had to go and have MRIs every 6 months for years. And every time they were finding different spots or something, it'd have to be biopsy. She had been recommended to have a double mastectomy as well as a hysterectomy. And as a woman, that's a really big decision and really scary. And so Becca started working with this girl around her nutrition and lifestyle habits, specifically cutting out seed oils, finding quality meat, ensuring that she had quality like fruits and vegetables. It wasn't animal based by any means, but it was just cleaning up some of the toxic things in her diet. She just got a text the other day that the girl got her first MRI back that was clean in years.
Wow.
She's got kids and she's a mom. And to think about the fear of every time you have to go in and get checked, is this the time? Is this it? And almost feeling like, I know I have this gene, it's going to express itself. I'm going to battle cancer. What a change in perspective, opportunity, and life to be able to have that freedom on the front end. To not have to potentially have a life-altering surgery, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And that's the power of food. Like God gave us the things that will heal us. I believe that wholeheartedly. I do think that there are medical interventions needed for different things. It's not to completely knock the medical community, but we focus so much on treating things after the fact versus realizing we have so much power in what we put into our mouth. It changes everything. And she was sharing that story with me yesterday at lunch. And I just thought, like, if that's not the testimony to the power of choice and food, yes, is it expensive? Is the meat going to be more expensive on the front end? Get Butcher Box. I got a link. I'll put it in the show notes. But you do have an option, and you don't have to be victim to the system. You don't have to be victim to all the chronic disease that we're seeing, especially in the United States, especially in our generation that grew up on, we're the first generation growing up on Pop-Tarts and Kellogg's and Frosted Flakes and just all the things that, again, we could easily look at our kids and say like, oh, well, you know, we ate that and we're fine. Are we fine, guys?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're fine.
And it all takes awareness, just knowing yourself. And the awareness piece is huge because, like you're saying, we grew up on Pop-Tarts and stuff. It takes like either someone telling you or you kind of waking up and realizing, what is a Pop-Tart?
What is a Pop-Tart?
Yeah, true.
And then
What is
also
a
like,
Pop-Tart?
what am I doing while I'm eating? That's a big deal for a lot of people who maybe suffer with like digestive issues, especially for me. I was always distracted from my food, and it's like my intention and my awareness has changed to like, what is this food?
Yeah.
What am I eating? And like, I'm gonna be focused on it the entire 10 minutes it takes me to eat this meal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because
No
I've
screens,
just found
no
myself,
distractions. Yeah.
I'm always on my phone, or I'm eating in front of the TV, or I'm eating in the car, and it's like, you're wondering why your gut is stressed out or your stomach is just like,
because your
ugh.
body's
Well,
trying
it's
to do
like-
multiple things at
Yeah,
one
think
time.
about it. Your body doesn't know the difference if you're like, if I'm stressed out and overstimulated and trying to eat, it's the same thing evolutionarily as me being chased by a bear and like trying to wolf down an apple. Like your system is so much more sensitive and in tune with you than you want to give it credit for. We live in a world right now that there's such a disconnect, I think, between like mind and body in terms of like what we're doing. And because we operate at this hustle pace and this hustle culture where it's super normal to just crank coffee all day, not eat, or eat like slam stuff in while you can, or even when you're at dinner, it's like most people sit on their phones or not even talking to each other. There is something ancestral in your gut, in your system, evolutionarily, that was built for being present while you're eating. And we've gotten away from a lot of those things that seem so minute that make the biggest impact on how your body reacts. Like if I'm sitting and eating and putting my fork down and intentionally chewing and present with my food, your gut releases different hormones to process that and absorb those nutrients versus I'm on the go. I'm slamming whatever I can to get something.
I'm on fires
the
at work.
Totally doing.
And you're most of the time alone when those situations are happening. And my one of my biggest like things with being animal based, it's forced my boyfriend and I both to, like, because he is just gonna do it with me because he's in the house with me. But it's like, we're both sitting down to eat dinner together now. And like we're talking, and they always tell you like, don't talk with your mouth full, but it's like, no, talk talk while you're eating, put your fork down, take a bite, like listen to what that person is saying, and it causes even more intentional, like you're in this moment specifically, you're not somewhere else. And then it's a double whammy. You're like connecting with your person and also eating really nutritious food and being just intentional. Like that's my biggest piece of advice, just be intentional about it.
And again, it doesn't have to be animal based. I think it's just, again, being aware and honest with yourself about what you're eating and honest with how you feel. And a lot of times you're not going to know how you feel until you remove it from your system. Like a lot of people say like, oh, I could never eat that. And it's like, listen, you say that because you've never done it, but your taste buds change. I remember I used to get so pissed early on when people would be like, you want something sweet? Eat an apple. And I'd be like, an apple's not sweet. Like, I want candy. Like, that sweet? What kind of sweet? Like, okay.
Now you're like, I'm going to make a yogurt apple parfait.
Literally, it's like, now it's like my
cinnamon.
fruit is like my candy. And I always thought people were so ridiculous that said that. And now I'm one of those people because your taste buds will change if you are feeding sugar all the time. Because sugar's in everything. It's not just in candy and the obvious things. It is all throughout your food. Even the stuff that you consider savory, when you remove it from your system, it's like a drug and your body doesn't crave it the same. You're going to go through a weaning process, literally like caffeine or anything else that's addictive. But man, what a difference it makes. And the amount of self-control that you feel, because then you don't feel like you're a victim to it. Like, oh, I just couldn't live without this.
Yeah, true.
It's a choice then.
You're not
and
a slave
then,
to your food.
Yes, change your language, change your life.
So our advice is to move over to single ingredients food, even if it's not going to be animal based. Try to cut as much processed ingredients and count your chemicals, y'all.
Count your chemicals, not your calories, and prioritize. I know that it can feel expensive, especially in the world that we're living right now with inflation and cost of living and whatnot. But just determine, would you rather spend the money at your grocery store or would you rather spend it at your local hospital?
Yeah, buddy.
I think also too, but going back to the moderation thing, just for like a cap on all of it, like if you think that like moderation, like just having a piece here and there is like fine, like if you're actually having a piece here and there, but if you think that you're moderating yourself, track it, like write it down. How many times a day are you reaching for that Snickers bar, or like the thing that doesn't seem super
your coffee
unhealthy? How much are you actually consuming and still calling it I'm moderating myself?
Totally.
Identifying those
takeaway.
crutches.
Like I lied to myself for years, and the amount of people who are lying to themselves about what they're eating or how much they're eating,
So true.
it's a big impact.
Yeah, I dig it. All right, so let's move on to our obsession of the week. Kira,
Hi.
give us what you got.
I have two. That's
Give it
cool.
to us. We like to.
I like it.
So the first one, it's been recently brought to my attention. I mean, not recently. I've known that brain dumps are good for you, and I know that like journaling has always been good for you. But like, I have never wanted to journal a day in my life. I've never really had a reason to do a brain dump because I'm like, I don't know my own business. I just go to work and I come home and like whatever. I don't have anything that I'm working towards. Like, I did have goals, but I just like, I don't know, I kept them in the back of my mind. And I was like, I'll get to them later.
Yeah.
But Albie and I had coffee one day and we were talking about I'm venturing into the world of mobile massage and being a sole proprietor.
So if you need a massage, guys, she's the jam. Slide to the DM.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I like now I have all these ideas swirling around in my mind and thoughts that are just happening all day long that have always been there, and I've just been like I'm just on a constant loop of talking to myself and a constant like to-do list of things. I'll write to-do lists all day long, but I've never sat, put a timer on for 20 minutes and written down brain dump August 2nd. And I have noticed the biggest change in my productivity, in my ADD brain, like just everything gets written out in 20 minutes and whatever doesn't make it on that list in that 20 minutes, it's probably not like super worth like
top priority at that moment.
Yes, it's not a top priority. And like you've told me, like write all the things that just come to your brain in 20 minutes and then write the 5 top priorities. And it's not even like a to-do list of all these things that I need to do. It's like what just comes to your brain within 20 minutes.
Ideas.
Just like, and I really am a creative person. It's weird saying like I'm a creative.
You are.
But like I've always been a creative and I've just forced myself into like a type A box. And so finding something in the middle that like allows my brain to have organization while being creative has been like the biggest help in my life.
I love that.
So
That's
good.
cool.
Yeah.
And something that's not just like productivity is
Got
I've
it.
been obsessed with This Is Us lately.
Ooh.
Got back into that.
That was our
series.
old
That was our
series.
jam.
It makes me laugh, makes me cry.
All the
all the
feels.
things. Yeah. TV show with therapy and
Yeah,
brain to
literally.
it.
Literally.
What you got, boo?
My obsession of the week is Redmond's Relight.
Redmond's Relight?
Yeah, Redmond's Relight electrolytes. I got a dope little brand package from them this last week. And I are part of our morning routine is lemon water with salt. We've been doing that for probably over a year, I think, at this point. So that's always what we start our day with.
It's good to detoxify the body.
Yes,
you know?
Redmond's Real Salt is the jam. If you guys don't know, you can get it at like I probably every grocery store, but you know I love Sprouts. So Sprouts or Amazon or whatnot, we buy the bulk and then we use it. But I got this awesome care package from Redmond's, thanks to my boy Cooper over at Lab Management. Thank you so much. And they sent me a bunch of different flavors of the Relight. They actually have capsule electrolytes that I'm excited to use. And they also sent me like this immunity stack that's like a salt immunity. It's got vitamin C, turmeric, all the things. As an autoimmune disease warrior.
Is it turmeric or turmeric?
Turmeric? Turmeric?
Turmeric?
I don't know.
Anyways,
Ambulance. That's what Omar says. He doesn't say ambulance. It's
And
ambulance.
therapy.
Therapy.
I love it.
Therapy.
Okay.
But I will say that like I was an element chick through and through.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you guys, like, no lie, I'm absolutely a Relight girl now.
There you
Like
go.
it's so good. Tastes better. The salt quality is a lot
true.
better in terms of that. They also have an unflavored version. So if you're by the nature of things, you're going to have natural flavors in any flavored electrolyte. If it's a ready to drink shelf stable thing, they have an unflavored option as well, which is really, really nice if you're keeping it super, super clean. So,
Tastes like
you know,
the ocean.
yeah, there you go. Just
like the-
a little salt. So Redmond's Relight is the jam. They sell it in bulk, they sell it in sticks, and they have capsules. So thank you, Redmond's.
Shout out to Redmond's. Delicious product.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, sponsor. I would go with, we're back to Buffalo Exchange.
Hey.
'Cause we've been going
Yeah.
there after the podcast. Man, I got this shirt. Look at this vintagey Lone
Wolfpack.
Wolf Sturgis 2006, man. It's just fun to go there and like
Love it.
you find something that takes you back to a certain time and it's
Yeah.
nostalgic and you're like, I have to have that. You have no idea how much this meant to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And to not pay full price is great
Hey.
because their prices are awesome.
I got this Free People denim jumpsuit there
Yeah.
too. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
Buffalo
sure.
Exchange is, I mean, that's our spot. It's almost like become
That
our
is
little
fun.
date night.
They're super nice there, and it's fun to just try on clothes and give
Treasure
myself a
hunt.
15 to 20-minute time limit to go and try stuff on. So
love
that's fun.
it.
Shout out to Buffalo Exchange.
Yeah.
Let's close it out, y'all. Gratitude. What are you grateful for, Kira?
Yeah, in this season of my life, I've been grateful for time to like decompress. I'm in the middle of leaving a job, starting a new one, and it's been kind of just a really focused season of like checking in with myself. And my boyfriend's out of town. He's been out of town for 3 weeks. It's the same amount of time that I've had in between the last job and this new job coming up. So I've been alone with my dog for 3 weeks, and we got like a little bit of cabin fever, but at the same time, I'm so grateful because it's exactly like 2 months ago, this is where I wanted to be. And this is exactly what I asked for. It was like,
Answer prayer right there.
yeah, just like, I just want to be home with my dog more. I want to live life. I want to go on vacations.
Yeah.
I also want to do work that's fulfilling. And like
Yep.
all of that is happening right
That's
now.
awesome.
And it feels so good. So
That's
like
good.
love that.
just that time to be able to do those things
Yeah.
that like I felt like I was created to do. Like I'm so grateful.
Oh, I
just
love that.
driving down here too. Like today I was like looking at Vegas because my motto the last like month and a half has been like, I hate Vegas. I want to get out of Vegas so bad. But just driving downtown, I was like, oh, there's so much culture here.
There it is.
There's so much like to be learned here too, and people to meet and stuff. And I've just been really grateful for like my entire time in Vegas
Yeah.
and just this time specifically.
Oh, I
I
love,
love that.
that.
Love to hear it, Kira. What you got, boo?
Oh man. So I mean, I feel like I'm also in a little bit of a season of like very deep gratitude. I feel like my morning routine has kind of changed a little bit. I think it's helped me like reframe the way I look at my life. But I am actually really grateful for a new friend in my life, little Amy Witters.
Hey, shout out to the Witters,
Shout
y'all.
out to the Witters. We had them over for our first like family dinner. And Amy and I both are pretty busy, and it always feels like we're like catching up and not getting time. And I feel like as you get older, it's harder to make friends. Like I have a lot of friends. Like I know a lot of people. We're incredibly well connected. I have amazing people in my life. I'm super grateful for that. But it's harder as you get older. And I think when you have small kids, to really find someone that you have this like instant fast friendship with and connection, and to have people that pray for you, pray over you.
Yeah.
That you can share life struggles with. And she's just a salt of the earth human being and an amazing esthetician as well.
Oh,
if
I
you're
was
looking
going to
for
say,
that.
is that esthetician Amy?
Yes,
That's awesome. I love
yes.
her.
Anointed skin.
Yes.
So she's just been such a blessing in my life. And as an adult woman in the season I'm in, it's hard to admit when you're like lonely, when you're surrounded with people, but you feel lonely.
Yeah.
And she's just been such a blessing in my life. And so she's like my person I'm grateful for this week. So Amy, I love you.
Yeah, I love that.
Love spending time with you. Love our talks. Love our coffee obsession. All the things.
I love it. Let's go, boo.
Yeah.
Glad to hear you found your friend.
I know. I love
Yeah.
her.
I have a friend.
I have to express gratitude for the gym. So I'm grateful for Social City, all the people in it, the
Yeah.
members, the coaches. It's been
Yes.
just
Say it
like
out loud.
people come in and like they have so much impact, but I don't think I've ever expressed or told people how much of an impact the gym has had on me
Oh,
and like
for
our
sure.
family. And I feel like it's a place where you can go and be yourself.
Yes.
100% be yourself. Where like I was military for 8 years, and it's like you have to go in and put on this, like Sergeant Cap, and it's like I'm Sergeant Foster, and everything is strict, and I don't have fun, and I don't smile, and if I act a certain way, I'm going to be judged, and I'm going to be reprimanded for certain behavior. And I think Social City is a space where I've been able to just be myself 100%, whether it's the crazy conspiracies I believe in. Like people still accept me and respect me for who I am, and you're not
Totally.
judged. And I feel like people come into the door expecting to have to act a certain way or to put on a certain mask, and then you get in, you're like, none of that stuff matters. Like,
Yeah, it
people
doesn't matter
love
what
me
your
for my-
job is,
Yeah,
doesn't
people love
matter.
me for who I am. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how much money I have, what job I have. Like,
Car you drive.
Yeah, none
the
of
stuff
that
that I
stuff-
think sometimes on the outside world, it's like you have to get through that filter before you're getting to know people. It's like there's something about doing really hard things together when you're kind of breaking all of that down and breaking it away. And we've gotten to see all these friendships that are almost like these oddball friendships that would never happen if it wasn't for the gym.
yeah.
And it really has become this like melting pot of such incredible people.
Yeah. So shout out to anyone who has ever walked through the
That's
doors
right.
of our gym
Yeah.
for allowing me a space and a place where I can go and be myself, and a space and a place for people to come and be themselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give them the good news, boo.
Just know that you guys are made with a purpose, on purpose, and we're so thankful you spent your hour with us.
That is episode 15. Thank you, Coach Kiriah, for joining us. Let's wrap it up with a break, y'all. Y'all know how we do. Fit Force, you know, woo on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fit Force, you know, woo.
Peace out.
I like that one.
Yeah. Good.